Hello and welcome to this introductory video on the reports machine. This video is specifically about the IB MYP Edition. The first thing you need to do is make sure you've got Microsoft Excel on the desktop version. Then we're going to open up the sheet or the main file. You'll get greeted with this message. You just need to enable macros here. And once the sheet loads, you will see kind of the main page. There are three sort of separate pages here at the bottom. You do also get this security warning, or it might say something else on a something about enabling content on a Windows system as well. You just need to hit enable content, and now all that does is allows you to set up the license. Now, as you can see, the license isn't set up on this sheet yet, so I'm going to show you how to do that. We just go down here to license. And this is the license agreement. Having bought the sheet, you will receive a license key or product key like this. Once that's inputted here, you are able to unlock the sheet and the comments start being built. So basically what this sheet does is write end of term or end of year report comments for you based on student data. I'll show you exactly how that works in a minute. We've got two sort of example students with some example data here as well, and I'll talk you through how this influences the generated comment and where the comment comes from in this comment bank. So to set up the sheet, this is designed to be used per sheet, and there are 35 students per sheet, or spaces for students per sheet, so it's designed to be used per class. So you could put your class name in here. I'm just showing you this example using a grade 7 design class, and we're reporting for a term, so end of term report. I'm just going to delete some of this data actually and show you how it builds it from scratch. So Sarah B, she's a girl, and she's got these criteria grades. So these are the linked to the IB criteria A, B, C, and D. Now I'm using this for design, however you could use this for any MYP subject, because of course all of them have four main criteria which are assessed. So let's say Sarah got a 3, a 4, a 5 and a 6 in her criteria scores this term. I'm going to leave the working at grade for a minute, and there are some optional comments here as well. Now you should have noticed as I have typed in those numbers, we actually got a comment written. So if we have a read of this, it should be something that is aligned to this data. So Sarah has achieved a final level 4 grade in design class this term by submitting most of the required parts of the design cycle to a good standard. Sarah's most successful part of the project was her work for criterion D, evaluating where she showed good testing and analysis skills. To improve her overall grade in future projects, Sarah should aim to improve her work for criterion A, inquiry and analysis, by analysing the design problem in more detail. Sarah has found some success in design class this term, and I feel that with a bit more effort and focus she will soon see higher grades in the future. Now I think that's a very adequate comment and a very sort of well-aligned comment for this student. It's mentioned that she should really focus on improving her criteria A. It talks about how she did very well in criterion D. Of course, if we flip those, say this was a different set of data like this, the comments actually changed substantially, and I'll show you why in a second. But now it talks about how she did particularly well in criterion A, where she showed good research and thinking skills, and then it talks about how she should focus particularly on D next time. So you get the idea. So it picks out the top comments from here, it introduces it, and it sort of gives you a bit of a conclusion. Now there are some optional comments as well. So these are things like the target grade. So if, for example, this student was given a target of a 4, and of course she's achieved a 4, we get an extra sentence in here. So Sarah has achieved the final level 4 grade in design class this term by submitting most of the required parts of the design cycle to a good standard. This is in line with her target level. Now, of course, if this was lower and she actually achieved a higher level than her target level, it will mention this is above her assigned target level. So it's just a simple sentence there that kind of makes that connection if you want to use it. I'm going to leave that one for now. I've also got effort and ATL grade here. So if we put in an effort level 2, So it can be 1 to 3, so 1 being the lowest, 3 being the highest. So I'm going to say sort of medium level of effort, and maybe she's met expectations in terms of her ATL skills. But of course, in IB subjects, we usually have a skill attached to any kind of major project or report, so on. So Sarah, and of course this is optional, you don't have to use it, but in this case we've got a similar kind of comment, except now, though though she has put a good level of effort into her work, her results have not been consistent across all criteria in the mini speaker project unit. So again, this is for a design class. So it's picked up that she is putting a good level of effort, but her results, I think you'll agree, weren't so consistent. If her results were very consistent, so let's say she got 4s across the board, you'll see this comment, this second sentence actually changes to her results across the criteria assessments have been very consistent this term, and she has put in a good amount of effort into her work for the mini speaker project unit. So it picks up the consistency as well within this effort sentence, which is sentence 2. I'll talk a bit more about the kind of order of the sentences a little bit later as well. If we have a look at this other student, this is James. So it's similar kind of data. I've included more data for James so you get a slightly longer comment. And I've also actually used this section. So this is an adjustments section. So for example, the reason we've used that here is because James has got 5, 5, 6, 7, so A, B, C, D. And James has got, so his lowest scores are in one of these two. So when it talks about his target, James could improve his final grade in future by focusing on criterion B, developing ideas in particular, and it tells him how to do that. That is because we've actually adjusted it. If we didn't put this here, you would actually, the system doesn't know which one of these to pick, so it just picks the first one. So now it should talk about A. Yeah. So we can adjust this, so you can sort of tailor the comment slightly if a student's getting very kind of similar scores across the board, and maybe there's there's more than one lowest or highest kind of score in that across these 4. You can sort of adjust it to what you feel is appropriate. So for example, if Sarah did get straight 4s, but I know as I was her teacher, that maybe she should be improving her criteria C, let's say, I could put C here as a target, and actually it will say this will help improve his score for criterion C, and so on. So the other thing you can do is actually refresh these. So we've got about 25 different options of comments for a student with the exact same grades. Of course, it also swaps the comments for boys and girls. So if we change Sarah to Sam and put boy or male in there, it will talk about, it will write the comment as if it's for a male student. So Sam has achieved a final level 4 grade in design class, and so on. His results across all the criteria. So that's something that's quite nice as well. So it automatically changes all those words for you. You don't need to click boxes and sort of select which gender it is every time for each comment. It's already worked out for you. The other nice thing as well is depending on what kind of reports you have. So for example, if you did a year report, it will change every mention of the word term in these comments to the word year. So Sam has achieved a final level 4 grade in design class this year by submitting, and if it's got any, it might mention next year he should focus on something, and so on. So you've got the option to quickly change this, so that allows the system to be used for an end of term and an end of year. Now the other useful feature is, let's say we've got Sam, and let's say we've only actually covered, let's clear his results, let's get something else. Let's say he's got 3 and 6, and we've only done these first 2 criteria so far, and we haven't actually covered these 2 criteria yet this year, but these are the first 2 we've done this term, and we need to report on it. Now that's fine, the system will continue to work. However, even though he's got a 3 and a 6, it automatically thinks that, it works out his final grade, final IB grade, and that influences this text. So as you can see, it's saying Sam has underachieved and so on. because his final IB grade is quite low. However, in our case, Sam has, he started on a 3, so a little below average, but then he's jumped up to a 6. So I think that's actually, we want to praise him for some of that effort. So we might want to actually adjust his working at grade to something else. So let's say he's actually working at a level 5. That way, as soon as I type that 5 into there, it's actually adjusted his final IB grade to whatever I type in here. That way, we've actually got a more appropriate comment in this box. So it's the first sentence and last sentence that become a bit more positive for a student with a higher level, and so on. And also, it should mention to improve his overall grade in future projects, Sam should aim to improve his work for criterion A, inquiry and analysis. That was the lowest, and it will mention that he did particularly well in criterion B, which of course was his highest. You can even adjust these to mention the ones he hasn't done yet if you wish, but of course that might not make sense depending on how you use it. Now of course we can refresh this, we can read through a few different versions if we're not quite happy with what it suggested. Once we find a version we like, all you need to do is hit save, and the version that was just here has now jumped into this box. Now when I save this page, in fact I'll show you that right now, if I save and then close it, and then let's reopen it again, you'll see that that comment is still there, just like it was when we last left the sheet. So you can always kind of keep your comments, the chosen ones, safe here, even if you don't do the whole class in one go. But if we do press refresh, all of these will keep changing. So this option allows you to actually store the comments in the sheet. And also you can actually type into here. This is not just normal plain text, there's no formulas, there's nothing, you don't need to do anything special here. This is just, you can add extra text and so on, and it will appear there as well. So you can make little edits to the system if you like. However, in my experience, I rarely do. This is perfect for what I need it for, so I can just copy this out and paste it into as plain text into any other system such as iSAMS or ManageBack or SIMS or any other kind of main system that your school uses for report sort of compilation and printing. And those are usually online, or of course you can paste them into a Word document or something like that if you wanted to print them yourself. So that's a sort of simple overview of how this sheet looks and how it works from the front page. We do also have a comment bank. You might be wondering where those comments actually came from, and they do come from this, so it doesn't think up the comments automatically. You have to enter the comments. Excuse me. So we've got a range of comments here, and this is a good actually opportunity for me to show you the sentence structure for this sheet. So we've got sentence 1 is an introduction, which is randomly chosen based on final level. So of course in the IB we have final level from 7 all the way down to 1. So what the sheet does, it will randomly pick one of these 5 comments. One of these 5 comments if the student got a level 7, one of these if it got a level 6, and so on. We've also got sentence 1A, which is down here, which is an optional one. That's the target level comparison, so it looks at if the student is above, in line, or below their target level, and it will add this extra little sentence if you choose to use it. We've also got effort and consistency. So this one's a little different in that we add an effort level here, and the sheet actually scans the consistency, and I mentioned this a little bit earlier. So it can tell if, for example, this would be a very inconsistent set of data. So it mentions it here, his results have not been consistent across all criteria, whereas if we sort of got straight 4s, it would talk about how had been very consistent, how his results have been very consistent this term. And that comes from here. And we've also linked it to the effort because we feel that it's actually quite a nice sort of part of the report to mention effort and consistency together. So this first comment would appear if the student is high effort, high consistency, this is high effort medium consistency, this is high effort low consistency, and you get the idea all the way down to low effort low consistency. So for example, his lack of effort has had a negative effect on the consistency of results this term, and he consistently as a sort of flip side to that, he consistently submitted good quality work throughout the unit and has always put in a great level of effort. Now you might notice that these aren't written in sort of plain English. There is a little bit of there are a couple extra words and a couple extra exclamation points. I will go over how to edit these comments and how to use the comment bank in more detail in a future video, but this is just for having a sort of getting used to how it works. So that was sentence 2. Sentence 3 and 4 talk about the student's strength area and target area. So depending if they got, their highest level this term was in criteria A, they would get one of these 3. If their lowest score was in criteria B, for example, they would get something out of these 3. And the way it picks which one is based on the student's overall level, and it actually simplifies it into just high, medium or low. So for example, if a student needs to improve his criteria B, and he's at a low level, it would read something like this. To improve his grade next time, students should focus on criteria B, developing ideas in particular, where he should aim to develop his drawing and communication skills. Excuse me. Compared to a student that's also sort of targeted to improve his criteria B, but he's already getting a high score, it would talk about how the student can maintain his high grades in future design projects by taking a bit more time to improve his drawing and communication skills in criteria B. So you get the idea that the language is slightly different depending on the student's kind of overall level, where they are in the class, and which criteria we need to sort of consider. So that's sentence 3 and 4. Sentence 5 is an ATL skill. So we score ATL skills on exceeding, meeting, approaching or below expectations. And of course this is just a sentence that gets added in. Again, if you choose to use it, you don't have to. We can just remove it from the comment by removing the score there. But if we add a score, so for let's say exceeded expectations, then down here it will talk about he has exceeded expectations in terms of his communication ATL skill this term by showing a great attitude towards the subject. That has come from here. I'll talk a little bit more about the use of the ATL name and so on in the future video when we're building comments. And finally, sentence 6 is exactly like sentence 1 in that we pick out one of these 5 comments based on the level, and the level comes from this final IB level here, which you can adjust if you haven't completed, say, all the criteria. Say we've only done those 2 and one of them's a 1. Of course, overall his grade will be quite low just simply because we haven't completed the others. I mean, even if we had completed 2 criteria and he got 4s in both of them, his final grade wouldn't really be a 2, would it? It would, we might want to adjust that to a 4 just to have a working out grade there. So hopefully you've got a good idea on how the system works and how you could use it to write reports quickly. If you check our YouTube channel, you'll be able to see a more detailed description of how to use the comment bank. And if you have any further questions or if you're interested, please contact thereportsmachine.com if you visit that website, or info@thereportsmachine for more information. Thank you for watching.